We start this bulletin with breaking news coming in. Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba takes note of the hashtag ANN7 Treasury expose, concerned that internal Treasury audit into integrated financial management system revealed financial mismanagement. The minister, together with Treasury leadership, looking into the issues raised in the news report. Gigaba says maintaining public confidence is key in the work of National Treasury. Once investigation is concluded, Treasury will brief the public about the outcome. Now joining me in studio to discuss this further is ANN7's Edwin Khaswe and Cecilia Russell. They're here with me in studio. Very good afternoon to you guys. Welcome.
Hey, Audrey.
Breaking news coming in. It appears someone paid attention. The minister of the finance minister says they are going to probe the ANN7 expose of mismanagement into Treasury, going back to not just I think previous minister Pravin Gordhan and other ministers as well. Your reactions. I'll start with you, Cecilia.
Well, I think it's fantastic because I think the report is very sound. It is an internal audit report which shows a whole range of more than 50 processes were mismanaged in terms of finances, in terms of process, in terms of not putting in place all the aspects that are needed in order for value for money in terms of taxpayers' money, and obviously in the end that also impacts on people service delivery. So right. It's really important. I think it's really good. I'm glad that they are taking it into account.
Yeah, I mean, this is taxpayers' money. I'm sure you know all South Africans should be concerned about this. And the ANN7 expose, Edwin, actually detailed the audit report, the actual audit report that exposes this mismanagement of finances.
Yeah, just to recap on that, we broke the story on Friday, and we had an hour and a half long discussion looking at how the IFMS, the PMO structure was supposed to function at Treasury. Remember, Treasury is supposed to be this institution that is beyond reproach. It's an institution that is dealing with our the taxpayers' money. It's an institution that over the years, whenever there's harsh economic climate, would say, tighten your belt, we're introducing all these austerity measures. But within Treasury, all those measures that Treasury is asking us as the public to follow, they are not following. The contracts that they gave to there's a couple of companies that we're looking at in the internal report. There were no processes followed in terms of contracting those companies. There were no procurement measures in place to make sure that payments were done above board. There were no timesheets presented by the companies claiming and billing Treasury. So all of this lax controls within Treasury, led to this internal report being commissioned. Right. But the DG at the time said on the report it was never made public. And now, after the ANN7 expose on Friday, it's good to see that the Minister of Finance has responded and will look into this measure.
So the DG was aware of these inconsistencies. The former Finance Minister was aware of these inconsistencies, yet we had all these exposés, alleged exposés, on state-owned enterprises and how the supposed CEOs were not doing a well job. Why do you think this has been hidden for so long, Cecilia?
Well, I think that, one doesn't want to to hang one's own dirty linen out.
I suppose. That's a fair response, yes.
I think that may be part of it. The other part of it is that, I think that sometimes things like this are a little bit agenda-driven, that people have agendas to expose other what seems like problems within government and keep some hidden. I think that just in terms of the context of this particular expose that we did, this project is designed to make sure that all parts of government, in national departments and provincial departments, can speak to each other in terms of procurement and financial systems, etc., etc. So it's an enormously important project that would be terrible for it to go, as the Australians say, pear-shaped, because it would make sense for every aspect. If somebody gets a house in the Northern Cape, that somebody can pick that up in Gauteng, that they're not giving the same person a house, so that there's an equitable share of a distribution of everything. So this kind of project is really, really important. It will also ensure that procurement is done along fair lines. It will make sure that it's very open and accountable and that kind of thing. But it is very odd that behind this really important project is the office that was set up in order to do the new phase of it, because the first phase started in 2005 and went up to 2013, to make this work and to make this a project that that South Africans can be justifiably proud of. Right. Is so mired in so many financial and other
absolutely, because the national treasury really is the pocket of the country's money, and it trickles down to all the state-owned enterprises and how they run. Just going forward with the finance minister saying, now we're going to probe this, we're going to see how this happened. Where do you think is the starting point?
Look, there's this internal report, and we believe that after the report was done, there was another investigation, which is what the minister is mentioning in his statement, that investigation hasn't been concluded yet. It's that investigation then that will tell us how serious the minister is taking this, if he releases it or if he takes it to Scopa in Parliament for it to be ventilated and then get the ball rolling in tightening up controls in Treasury. I mean, I mentioned on Friday that if you look at some of the dealings between Treasury and some of these companies, how things were not in place, it looked amateurish for a very important department that deals with the country's finances, that you scratching your head thinking, why was this not in place? A contract that says this company can do this scope of work for this much over this period of time, all those measures were not in place. And that's what the minister needs to get to the bottom of, that how are you going to deal with your finances at Treasury? When you blow your budget at home, Audrey, what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So now we have obviously the members of Parliament who signed this petition saying the state capture report needs to be looked into. Now we have the finance minister saying we also need to probe this, obviously trying to instill confidence in the National Treasury Department. How do you think this will be received by the public in general, Cecilia?
Well, I think that the first thing is the fact that he has reacted like this. I mean, he says in his statement, which came about half an hour ago, 50 minutes ago, so that he has confidence in the people that work in Treasury, etc., etc. But he says he is particularly concerned because these kinds of you can't continue with you can't continue with projects and what have you if it has a bad name, or if there are problematic processes, etc., etc. So he's going to probe. I mean, the fact of the matter is that he's going to be probing his own report. This is an internal report of Treasury, so he would have to get the auditor, the main auditor, to come and explain to him. He would have to go and look through the report in every phase, and we're going to be breaking more of it this evening. So if people are interested, they should stay tuned. But there were 5 or 6 different companies involved, all of which seem to have all sorts of a whole range of problems. The one that we did on Friday, which involved BITS Technologies, we were able to establish, for example, that the owner of that business, or the managing editor, the director, also worked as a consultant for Treasury, which seems to me like a conflict of interest. I can't say it is or not, whether they ran concurrently or what have you. But it definitely does seem to have a conflict of interest. So what really, maybe there's many scarce resources in this country, so we've only got a limited number of skills. But nevertheless, when you are managing massive projects, and this was only about, let me just tell you, about 4 billion rands worth of project. I mean, 4 billion is a lot of money, but this was just kind of just set up the office that would manage the whole the whole.
That's a huge amount of money, no doubt. Just Edwin, we broke the story on Friday. You guys had a lot of really alarming evidence with regards to this audit report. What stood out to you the most that you think should be spot on, that should immediately be investigated?
Well, just the lax control within Treasury, because the IFMS system is supposed to link everything, as Cecilia is saying. So you need to know at Treasury who is bidding for what project. It must be transparent. There must be a clear supply chain management of the system. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to bid for a tender, Cecilia must not come back and say, but hang on a second, why did you give him the tender when I put in a better bid? Because, everything needs to be above board, and it doesn't seem like it was happening like that at Treasury, particularly with this project, because that's the system that is supposed to be put in place to make sure that Treasury and all the departments function optimally. So for me, the fact that all these measures were not in place was an alarming issue for me, because you're dealing with people who are dealing with finance, people who crunching numbers, people who are supposed to know how the finances of the country work, but then they haven't got all these measures in place to make sure that if they hire you as a company, they need to give you terms of reference, they need to give you a statement of work, they need to give you the scope of work, they need to tell you what they expect between now and in 3 months' time. And you, from your side, you need to be providing timesheets and saying, I'm billing for hour 1, I did this job, I'm delivering on this requirement.
And I'll ask you to hold on to that thought, Edwin. We actually have more breaking news coming in with regards to this particular story. Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba defends implicated despite proof that Minister Gigaba expresses confidence in ex-ministers. Gigaba also backs integrity of DG Lungisa Fuzile. Internal audit report had nailed irregularities by Treasury, and the ex-DG Fuzile and Linda Budvek were aware of the irregularities. Joining us on the phone line for a reaction is Botsang Moela. He is a political analyst. Very good afternoon to you, Botsang. Thank you for joining us. Your reaction to breaking news coming in, Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba saying they have taken note of ANN7's Treasury expose. However, he is expressing confidence in the members of Parliament and those, the ex-DG Fuzile, that perhaps something could have gone wrong there, but saying that it's important to instill confidence in the National Treasury. What is your reaction?
Good afternoon, Audrey, to you, and good afternoon to the ANN7 viewers. Well, first of all, I must say congratulations to the swift reaction of Minister Malusi Gigaba in this matter. I said it last night that it is not just an expose by the ANN7, but it is an official internal report. So these are not just mere allegations. It's based on an internal audit report. And it is good that the Minister of Finance is reacting to what ANN7 has exposed in such a speedy time. But I also think it is correct, in line with public administration, that the minister is not jumping the gun and attacking the former DG or the former ministers without allowing due process to take place. Yes, indeed, the audit report has said there's been, examining, actually, I looked at that report, and that there has been irregularities under the nose of the previous minister, under the nose of the previous DG, but I think it is correct as colleagues in government for the minister to rise and say, let us not attack the DG yet, let us investigate what happened, and how did it not come to the attention of SCOPA or the former DG and ministers to bring this matter to rest. And I think we should allow that process to take place.
Absolutely. Botsang, I'll please ask you to be on hold. I just want to speak to my colleague Cindy Mabe, senior anchor, who's standing by with more on this story. Very good afternoon to you, Cindy. Thank you for joining us. Huge congratulations to your team for this expose that the Finance Minister has now taken on, saying they will be able to do a probe. Do you think Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba is being cautious going forward with this probe? Obviously, at this moment, saying he has a lot of confidence in the team that he took over from.
Thanks. Good afternoon to you, Audrey, and our viewers. Of course, Minister of finance would have to be very careful in how he treads within Treasury. We know it's a very safeguarded institution that is the custodian of the public purse. So Minister Gigaba, at this stage, playing it almost as if there is nothing untoward, for in case this report you can answer to the various allegations. But I must state though that it is very serious with the auditors of the report saying that some of the findings are catastrophic by a mere virtue of the fact that there are no systems. It means that you can't measure any progress made. The money is essentially looted without any accountability, and the process in which how companies were appointed, if we know the supply chain management process, it is very rigid, and you would expect that Treasury would be able to follow every single rand in this case. So I think Minister Gigaba at this stage is really just trying to neutralize the system without raising any alarm that almost 5 billion rand had gone unaccountable between the period of September 2014 and August 2015.
And Cindy, it is very interesting to note that the ministry's press release refers to the audit report findings broken by ANN7 as claims. You went through this audit report. Would it be fair to call it claims at this point?
I didn't get that, Audrey, but what I can say is that the report is very specific. It gives numbers. It gives the scope in terms of what the deliverables are from the various companies that were nitpicked or cherry-picked, if you like, to perform a certain task. So that alone raises the question, why wasn't there an open, transparent process and allowing a competitive bidding environment for other players to have as well? Some of the companies are perennial clients or service providers of Treasury, with whom some, as Cecilia earlier said, that, in terms of BIDS Technologies, their managing director was a consultant for Treasury. So it really is questionable as to how far deeper is the relationship and the level of conflict of interest that these companies enjoy with the National Treasury.
Cindy, thank you so much for your insight. We certainly appreciate it. That's my colleague there, Cindy Mabe, joining us in the newsroom as well. More reactions coming in. Now we have political analyst Professor Sipho Siepe on the phone line. Very good afternoon to you, Professor. Thank you for joining us. Your reactions with regards to the Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba, saying they will take on the issue raised by ANN7's expose on the Treasury and the irregularities from the audit report, but also saying, on the other hand, he has a lot of confidence with regards to the team that he took over from, including the DG of the National Treasury. Do you think he's double speaking at this point?
No, I think the first thing that we must indicate is that it is correct for the minister not to jump the gun. One is to make sure that you acknowledge concerns that have been raised, and also to understand that there is also a constitutional principle that says you people are innocent until they're proven guilty. So what he's doing is, before I jump the gun, I'm going to acknowledge what has been put out there, and this will be investigated. And only when they are investigated will I be able to express myself confidently. But at the moment, there is no reason for me to doubt the integrity of my predecessors. That may change once you have new information that suggests the opposite. But most importantly, this must also be seen in the context of the other MPs who have actually said the issue of state capture should not be limited to only the ESCOM, that the state has been captured fully, and they are the major players, and these are the same groupings. So this move by the MPs must be seen as a welcome one, because what it will do, it will actually show that most of the resources actually move from the state to a certain privileged grouping, which is mainly white companies. So we must continue to encourage this level of expansive and comprehensive investigation of state capture.
Thank you, Professor Siepe. I'll ask you to please be on hold. I want to go back to Botsang Moila. Botsang, I hope you're still on the phone line. Treasury's report also reveals the fact that there is a further probe that is happening into the IFMS process. Now, it seems this has been kept under wraps.
Audrey, if it wasn't of the audit report which we learned of last week on Thursday, this matter would have been kept under the carpet regarding the role of what that unit within the Treasury, as well as the appointment of those companies. What role were they supposed to play? It is clear to us at the moment, and I don't want to use the word allegations, because an audit report is not an allegation, but it's a finding. Now, it is clear to us that some monies of approximately 5.2 million were already overcharged to the Treasury. The findings were very clear that the monies that were invoiced to the Treasury were 35 million, while the original quotation was about 28 million. So even at the onset, at the beginning of this whole IFFM process, there was already discrepancies. You know, there was already some levels of maladministration that somebody quotes a government department an amount of 28 million, but they invoice for 35 million, and they get paid 5 million before even the services were rendered. But what is strange is when the former DG discovered that monies were paid which were beyond, or invoices which were beyond the quoted amount, the department or the Treasury did not go back. They went and signed a new contract and not retrieve the other monies which were paid in advance. And that was very strange. But I think it is correct for the Minister of Finance to take this matter to SCOPA, to investigate this matter thoroughly, and to see to it what happened. For me, I agree with Professor Siepe that when we speak of state capture, we look at the overall picture. We don't look at one family or one part of the government that is being captured. We look at the Treasury itself, which is supposed to be the custodian of government financial processes, being infiltrated, being cheated, and being robbed, and not adhering to those processes. Those are some of the things we should look at, that if Treasury itself could not follow due processes in dealing with this matter, how about other government departments? And when I look at the list of the companies that benefited from this process, it is white-owned companies or white-led companies. So actually, this state capture investigation, it should be broadened. It should look at all companies which are having financial contracts with the government.